What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. Consider hitting the like and subscribe button because I upload a video every single day. It's always college football related, sports related. We have a good time. Today, I want to talk about LSU and the funk that they got themselves in. I want to get a little bit into the power rankings that we see as the AP Top 25, where we have teams that have played as many as 8 games and teams that have played as many as 2 that are all ranked inside the top 25. And I want to talk a little bit about recruiting. I was not expecting to be able to do this live stream podcast today, though I was going to do a podcast for the RJ Young Show podcast where you can download the show if you missed it, because I have a thing that is, well, coming up a little bit later on, a little sooner than I thought it would be, but we're going to get it in while we can. And I got some stuff that I am very excited to share with you on the channel here coming in the next couple of hours. So let's start with the bad news. The bad news is LSU's season just continues to get worse, man. On top of Coy Moore and his allegation that he was basically unlawfully searched for a gun he did not have as a star LSU wide receiver in Baton Rouge, you have this sexual assault allegation scandal that had popped up in August and has popped up once again. USA Today doing intrepid reporting to find out how LSU basically sat on allegations of sexual assault that were alleged at football players. As a matter of fact, I went to the story on USA Today and read it all. There's a lot to unpack there. I'm going to read you just a little bit of a summary that was put together on ESPN about it, because I think they do a good job of putting together the details as we need to hear them. So, the report on USA Today, right, alleges that LSU officials had knowledge of sexual assault allegations made by former running back Darius Geis and former football players, and either ignored those, right, complaints or denied the victim's request for protection. The report cites 3 cases in which football players were found responsible for sexual assault and were allowed to stay on campus, receiving deferred suspensions, which amounts to probation. And then this is just ghastly for me. The report details assault allegations made against former wide receiver Drake Davis by an LSU tennis player, including the allegations that the victim's tennis coach, Mike Sell, was informed that Davis had punched the woman in the stomach but did not report the assault to the school or the Title IX coordinator. The report states that LSU sat on the information for months while Davis continued to assault and strangle her. That is ghastly. That is criminal conduct alleged. And LSU had a duty to investigate these allegations, and it seems that they did not in these 3 very specific cases. LSU on the football field has also been just woefully awful. I was saying they're going to catch 5 losses to begin the season. Then you had more opt-outs. They lost 34 players off of last year's team, and they lost the reigning Biletnikoff Award winner in Jamar Chase to opt out. They lost Kerry Vincent, who I thought was going to be an outstanding nickel safety for them, to opt out. They're very, very young in the secondary, and they're very, very thin in the secondary. They also have lost Miles Brennan to what seems to be a real injury as opposed to coronavirus contact tracing or quarantining, and had to play TJ Finley, a true freshman quarterback, who I think is going to be pretty good here in a couple of years. But even on top of that, you have the self-reported violations, NCAA variety, that involve a booster paying money to a former offensive lineman's father after embezzling from a hospital. And you have Odell Beckham Jr. getting slapped with a 2-year ban because he decided to rip off a grip and give that money to Justin Jefferson and others who he considered to not be affiliated with the LSU University anymore or with LSU football anymore, and thought he could just pay them their bounty. No, sir. They are still very much part of the university, and that's still very much a violation. So you get the loss against Mississippi State, and even worse is we know that Mississippi State is bad, right, when we thought that they were good. You beat Vanderbilt, but Bixby's a 3-touchdown favorite against Vanderbilt. You lose to Missouri in a game where you had an opportunity to win it on the 1-yard line and couldn't punch it in. You get the game against Florida postponed, so you're going to have to play them anyway on December 12th. You beat South Carolina, and you are one of the reasons why Will Muschamp got fired yesterday. And then you lose to Auburn in a game where you had you you gave up 48 to Bo Nix and Auburn and scored just 11. You had the game against Alabama postponed, but I don't see how that one's going to get made up. And you are a 3-point underdog to Arkansas. That is unthinkable to start the season. But when you know how their season has gone, LSU being 2-3, would they have losses that they could still sustain to Florida, to Arkansas, because they're favored, Vegas likes them in that game, and to Texas A&M, you're looking at, goodness me, 2-6 before you get to, Mississippi. And we think that Ole Miss might actually be good enough to beat them because of what Ole Miss was able to do against Alabama. Say nothing what Arkansas did to Ole Miss, which is probably why Arkansas has a chance to beat this LSU team. So if you're just counting the ranked opponents they got left, that's 2 losses. Believe that Arkansas can go in there and get a W on the road. Yikes. And then you get Mississippi in Tiger Stadium. So, it's bad scene down there in Baton Rouge right now. Now, the positive there is that you're still recruiting really well. And I want to get into that because to talk about how the LSU has been recruiting, also to talk about how Alabama, Ohio State, Clemson have been recruiting. So I ran some numbers, right, through the 247 Sports calculator, which I really love to play with. And if they get to add the guys that they are very high on in Mason Smith, Tristan Lay, and Corey Foreman, you get to 25 total commits and a score of 311.25. That is not too shabby, all things considered, especially knowing what has happened with LSU football over the last 3 months. They've gone from a precipitous high to one in which it would not be out of the question for them to fall out of the top 10 in the recruiting rankings. But even now, they sit at number 3. Problem is, Alabama's got 22 commits in the boat, and they got 310 points. Ohio State's got 20 commits in the boat, and they got 304 points. So even if you get all 3 of these guys who are really great players, you're only going to be a point ahead of Alabama before they add another. And I think there's some leans in there that we're talking about, right? Tumise Adelie is actually down between them and ampersand U, or so it seems, after decommitting from Ohio State. And at a time when the dead period has been extended through what will be a calendar year, right, of April, for teams to be recruiting the way that they have at the top, it just goes to show you just how much some of these programs have invested in their recruiting staff, invested in technology, and invested in trying to connect with the players individually. Just going down the top 10 of the 247 2021 recruiting class, you'll see Alabama at 1, Ohio State at 2, LSU at 3. Oregon has been charging at 4. They got 23 commits. Clemson at number 5 with 17. They'll close really strong, right? Because that's what they do, and they'll have an opportunity to finish in that top 3. Georgia's at 6 with 18 commits, right? And Florida's at 7 with 26. Every time I don't think that Florida can take more, they end up taking more. To say nothing of getting DeMarcus Bowman coming out of the transfer portal and end up there. USC's at number 8 after finishing outside the top 60 in the 2020 recruiting ranks. Michigan at number 9, but we'll see how that holds together with Jim Harbaugh very much on the hot seat after losing to Wisconsin 49-11 in the Big House. The worst margin of loss for Michigan at the Big House since 1935. And then Tennessee at number 10 with 26 commits. Notre Dame's at 11 with 19, and Oklahoma's charging from 12 with 15. I expect them to finish pretty strong there as well. The more I look at what LSU has to overcome, the more I am astounded they've got this far. Because one of the questions that I put to LSU fans over the course of the last 6 months has been, was the 2019 national championship worth it? They will tell me yes. And I hope so, because it feels like it's going to be the last national championship you win for at least 3-4 years. You're down these 8 scholarships, but I hear more LSU fans trying to make it a positive in that, cool, we lost a lot of kids to the transfer portal and to opting out anyway. We got the room. That's not the way you want to do it, man. You want to have ballers at every single position, because in having ballers at every single position, you have better players at your starting positions, and you have an opportunity to do what you did in 2019 all over again. But it feels like it's going to be another 7 years between we are actually talking about LSU being a national championship caliber football team, and Ed Orgeron might not actually be the head coach at the time. All right. For those of you that have shown up to this here live show, I appreciate you. Alex Renteria, what's good? Taryn Bullock, what's good? Jaron TV, I see you. Beast FN YouTube, Corey Green, Brandon Reese. All right, so let's get to a few of your questions before I move on to a couple other topics. The first question that I see here, Renteria asks, OU and A&M and the Cotton Bowl. I think it's a definite possibility. Oklahoma would obviously have to win the Big 12 championship game, which means they got to beat Oklahoma State at 7 p.m. on ABC in prime time with College Game Day in tow. To do that, it's only the sixth time in the rivalry in which Oklahoma State has been the higher ranked opponent going into Bedlam. But if you're looking at the rivalry, it ain't been one, right? It's been more of a series. And Lincoln Riley is undefeated as a head coach against Oklahoma State, right? Now, that said, Texas A&M is the second best team in the SEC with their win against Florida. Florida's going to have an opportunity to play for an SEC championship if they continue to do what they're doing. But knowing that Texas A&M was able to get a win against Florida Kyle Field is not something to thumb your nose at anymore, right? It just sucks that for Ampersand U, they're in the SEC West and they already took an L to the best team in the SEC, Alabama. Got beat like they stole something, right? It wasn't really close. That said, I could see them getting the Cotton Bowl bid. This is not a year in which the Cotton Bowl is part of the college football playoff, and it would be a rematch of the 2012 Cotton Bowl in which Johnny Manziel destroyed Oklahoma's defense and Mike Stoops at Jerry World. I was at Jerry World for that game, covered the Cotton Bowl all week. This is a lot of fun. I even got a really good feature about Johnny Manziel and Landry Jones being privately coached by George Whitfield, the Quincy Avery of his day at the time. So I definitely think that that's on the calendar. Doc Winston, old Boogie getting in here. What's good, dog? Let's get to another question. Hey, RJ, what do you think of Zaven Collins' Tulsa this year? I think when he got his butt chewed out, he started to play good football. Up until then, he'd been playing outstanding football. He's the best player on the defensive side, Group 5, bar none, period. And it's nice to see Hominy, Oklahoma standing up. Tulsa is ranked inside the top 25 for the first time in a decade. That means the last time that Tulsa was ranked, I was in college at Tulsa. I'm 33 damn years old now. It's like I'm Jesus' age. And that's how long I had to wait for my alma mater to be ranked in the top 25. And to do it, they had to do something they had never done in program history. They had to beat two top 25 opponents in the same year. Had never done it before this year. And things are coming up Philip Montgomery in a year in which I expect Philip Montgomery might be getting fired. It doesn't seem like that's going to happen now as Tulsa has a real opportunity to win the American Championship. They are undefeated in the American with their only loss being to beat Oklahoma State. The Cincinnati game was supposed to be played weeks ago. It got canceled and postponed because Cincinnati thought they weren't going to have enough players to play. And they obviously think that they have an opportunity to play for a national championship, and they would love nothing more than to have that come against a Tulsa team that is undefeated in league play. You get to beat them and perhaps win an American championship. And you need the style points, right? If you're Cincinnati, and you need perhaps Notre Dame to catch an L, and you probably need Florida to beat Alabama or Alabama to sun Florida, depending on how things shake out. There's still room for these playoff teams to not come from the Power 5, but I want to get into that a little bit later. Zaven Collins is an absolute dude. Is Notre Dame elite? They seem to be, but I don't begrudge you if you say until they do it in the playoff, I don't care. Because for some people, they were elite in 2018, even as the rest of us were like, I don't know, man, that's a really soft, undefeated Notre Dame team. And then they got just drummed by Clemson 30-3, but Clemson was also one of the best teams in college football history in 2018. It's really difficult to go run the table 15-0. That's why I put LSU up there. And if you're putting that 2018 team up against that LSU team in 2019, you're probably going to look at that Clemson defensive line and say, oh, they're going to eat. They're going to eat. And then you look at LSU's defense, and it was middling. As a matter of fact, I think Oklahoma ranked above them in total defense going into the Peach Bowl. That's how hit and miss the LSU defense was. They gave up 500 yards of offense to Auburn, who played them really closely. So I think Notre Dame is elite because of the way that they beat Clemson and the way that they beat Boston College. Boston College was up 18 over Clemson at one point, 15 at half. Notre Dame was up 15 at half against Boston College, putting the ball on the ground and making some stupid mistakes. Still was able to win that game 45-31 and did not need any third, fourth quarter heroics to do it. I think Ian Book is coming into his own. I think they found a tailback in Kyron Williams, a redshirt freshman who's outstanding, save just a little bit of mistakes here and there. they develop their wide receiving core, they can be truly elite. Because I think you need Avery Davis and Javon McKinley to be something that Ben Skoranek is not. But that dude absolutely is a touchdown machine along with Mike Myers. I also really am enthusiastic about their defense. Like, those of you know that I have been on the Kyle Hamilton train for 2 years, going back to when Notre Dame traveled to Athens to play Georgia last year. He is that dude. Like, coming out of the Atlanta area, he is coming out of Marist, I think, one of the really outstanding programs there in Atlanta. He's going to be a first-round pick at safety. He's that good. So, is Notre Dame elite? I think they are, but if you don't, I'm fine with that. That's okay. I think they have an opportunity to prove it too by winning an ACC championship in their first and probably only year as a member of a conference, in which they would get to have the ultimate trump card of, we did the conference thing one day. We ran the table. We beat everybody that there was to be in the conference and won the conference title because we are Notre Dame, which would be the king flex for a Notre Dame fan. They'd be like, yeah, we did that. Wipe us down. We're that good. Look and see what other questions we got before we move a little bit further ahead. I feel like I skipped one. What up, RJ? None, Brandon. Who do you think South Carolina should hire? It's a very good question, right? Because who I think they should hire versus who they're going to have an opportunity to hire, two very different things. My first phone call as the athletic director at South Carolina is to Clemson University. Please connect me to one Brent Venables, sir. Like, Brent, we got a Brinks truck here. Tell us how much money we need to put in it for you to move just on down the road, stay in the state, and be the head coach of South Carolina. What do you say? That would be my first phone call, right? Because, like, what Brent Venables has done at Clemson is more remarkable to me than what Dabo Swinney has done at Clemson. Because the book on Brent Venables was he was falling apart, right? He was damaged goods. He got pushed out of Oklahoma, even as he said, I didn't get pushed out of Oklahoma. I decided it was time for a change. When they brought in Mike Stoops and they were supposed to be co-defensive coordinators again, and Brent Venables just decided, I'm going to go to Clemson. And then turns Clemson into a juggernaut, produces Mackenzie Alexander, produces Isaiah Simmons, has all 4 of the defensive linemen on that 2018 team drafted, and 3 get drafted in the first friggin' round. Has developed players at every single position on that defense. They continue to play all sorts of different combinations and be as multiple as anybody in all of college football. And yet there's Brent Venables saying, I don't want to go anywhere. I'm very happy here in Clemson. He gets to see his kid, Jake Venables, play linebacker there because James Skalski is hurt and doesn't seem like he's going to be back for the Florida State game, which ain't really that big a deal because Florida State ain't that good. There are people that are Florida State fans that want Mike Norvell fired already. Yet, I think that perhaps Jake graduating or being close to finishing his career as a football player, maybe college, but also I don't know if he's going to play in the NFL. I don't know about that. That might actually make it easier for Brent Venables to move his family, because that was the thing he said. I don't want to be one of those coaches that moves his family around a lot. I want to be able to stay in one place as much as I possibly can. And Dabo Swinney's like, you can stay for as long as you like, sir. I don't want you going nowhere, no how, for nothing. But I think a South Carolina Gamecock job coming open at this time in Brent Venables' life is something that he would truly consider. So that's who I think they should hire. Who could they hire? It feels like Hugh Freeze is going to get the phone call after that, after what he's done at Liberty, going 8-0 to start the season. They have a really cool matchup to end the season where we could see undefeated Coastal Carolina versus undefeated Liberty. And then Liberty gets to play in a bowl game. And can you think of somebody who would be more obnoxious about going undefeated and not having an opportunity to play in the college football playoff for a national championship? They would be more obnoxious in Lynchburg than the folks in Orlando. I kid you not. Like, this is the reason why I want to play off. So that you can shut up the Liberties of the world, the BYUs of the world, the Coastal Carolinas, the Marshalls, all the undefeated teams that are going to have claims to national championships to end this season. That's why I want it to happen, because it's still really hard to run a table undefeated. I don't give a damn how hard the schedule is. It's hard as hell to go 8, 9, 10, 11, 12-0. It's difficult, man. And if you get to do it against great competition, you don't really have anything to say about that. Your schedule is what your schedule is, especially this year, right? if you're an SEC team, you're like, we didn't get to play non-conference. Not that y'all actually play anybody out of conference anyway. And that SC team that y'all were going to play might have all done us a service if you're Alabama, and that we don't have to talk about USC being undefeated anymore. But we do, because they're 2-0, right? Same thing with what Oregon and Auburn went through last year. If Oregon doesn't catch an L to Auburn to open the season, we're talking about Oregon playing in the college football playoff last year. This is why the non-conference stuff matters, but the non-conference stuff acts like de facto playoff games because we compare those opponents when we're doing our rankings to end the season, and a bunch of suits around a boardroom get to tell us which 4 teams play for national championships. I'm here for all of the teams running the table. I want Marshall to go undefeated, Coastal Carolina to go undefeated, Liberty to go undefeated, BYU to go undefeated, all of them, Cincinnati, just to muck up this playoff situation even more. I think 4 is awful. I want 16. Every team that should get in does get in. Also gets me into another point that I think I'll just make right now. There are 13 top 25 teams that are undefeated, ranging from 2-0 to 8-0. 13. Haven't I been saying 16-team playoff? Because with those 13, you add 3. Let's say, I don't know, the 1-loss Florida team, the 1-loss A&M team, right? Add perhaps even a 1-loss Indiana team if they lose to Ohio State this weekend. Perhaps, right? You have a team that you respect, that you really want to see have an opportunity to play for a national championship, like maybe Wisconsin, right? Northwestern, perhaps. Because I think that whoever comes out of the Big Ten West, at least at this point, would deserve an opportunity to play in that playoff. But I also think that the Big 12 champ should get an opportunity to play in that playoff. These are all really good games that we would see. I'd be so here for a 2 versus 15 matchup that is Clemson or Notre Dame versus Coastal Carolina or Marshall, right? Because then you get to shut up all the Marshall and Coastal Carolina fans, but at the same time, they get to say they played in the playoff, they played in the national championship, and you get to unite college football fan bases from across the country. It's a good thing. More people should be invested in it and wanted it to succeed. That is where I get on the Hugh Freeze to South Carolina train. But also, if you're looking around and you're Luke Fickell, give me a phone call. I'm at Cincinnati right now. And if not me, give Marcus Freeman a phone call. Because the dream scenario for Cincinnati is you lose Luke Fickell to South Carolina, but Marcus Freeman stays there to be your head coach. Marcus Freeman is defense coordinator at Cincinnati, for those of you that do not know. I am very high on Marcus Freeman. It have been for 3 friggin' years. I really want Marcus Freeman to have an opportunity to be a head coach. See what else we got in here. Do you think Oklahoma will come to the SEC? I made that video. See. What else we got in here? Did I have other points that I wanted to make? How is Caleb Williams and Rattler going to work? What kind of question is that? Like, how? What kind of question is that? How is Mac Jones and Bryce Young working? You know? Like, how does JT Daniels, Carson Beck, Stetson Bennett, and Dwan Mathis work? How does that work? You know? Like, what kind of questions we got here, man? Get out of here. Let me see. What else? And you say a defensive coach. Don't compare Will Muschamp to Kirby Smart or Will Muschamp to friggin' Brent Venables. Get the hell up out of here. Number one, Kirby Smart has been outstanding at Georgia. They play for a national championship at Georgia. Sit down, son. Okay? Number two, Will Muschamp had an opportunity to be a head coach before they hired him at South Carolina as a retread. Okay? He was the dude that took over after Urban Meyer and ran it into the ground. He was the head coach in waiting at Texas. My God. My God. All right? Stop doing that. Stop with the lazy take. You're going to get into this chat. Come with something exciting to say. Doc Winston O'Biggy says, exercise your right to like and subscribe. All the cool kids are doing it. I appreciate it, man. We are hard charging toward 57,000 subs here on the channel, which is ouch walking, right? Like, the way that I pay attention to this stuff, right, is like, if you go to the CFB on Fox channel, they don't even have 18,000 subscribers over there yet, man. Like, that's where we're at. Like, I'm just going to go ahead and make sure that I fact check this to show you just what we have done with this channel. Yeah, 18.5. The college football channel for a major broadcasting entity has 18.5 thousand subs. We have 56,000 plus subs here, dude. And we've only been around since like September 2017. Like, for real. Like, that's all we have been doing. And yet when we put up against other college football channels, I feel like we hold our own and then some. And then when I see stuff like CFP on Fox somehow has a verified account with 18,500 subscribers, I don't have a verified account with almost like literally 3 times as many. Like, what are we doing? Anyway, like and subscribe to the video, please, because it really does just make us all feel better. And, you know, like, the community has only gotten to be much cooler here during the quarantine, because I've talked about a bunch of stuff during the quarantine that I probably wouldn't have got to talk about if we did not have the quarantine. I wanted to touch on a couple other subjects. Let me see. What else got it? Ooh, my man is from Moscow talking about go Ohio State. Goodness me. From Russia, go Ohio State. Let's see. What do we got? USC offense is trash. I mean, Mike Bobo. Mike Bobo is your internet coach. Dude got fired from Colorado State last year. Is the dude coaching South Carolina this year with a Colorado State transfer to South Carolina at quarterback. Gamecocks. What kind of life are y'all living right now, man? A better life than LSU. How about that? What else you got in here? If BYU makes the playoff, how much will it do for their recruiting? Not a whole lot, because they still got certain standards that make it difficult to recruit there. I mean, it's just not, it's not really that much fun to go to BYU. Put it this way. It's more fun to go to Notre Dame than it is to BYU, and it's rigid at Notre Dame. Like, it's hard. You know, like, it's harder to go to BYU than it is to go to Northwestern. All right? Like, it's difficult, man. You got a lot that you got to deal with. You got to want it to go to BYU. And then you have the mission trip dudes who come back and are like grown men with like teenagers who are probably booing the other team because they're 29-year-old true freshmen. Nah, man. Like, they can go undefeated, but it ain't going to help them all that much. Like, they won a national championship winning the Holiday Bowl in 1984. Get the hell up out of here with BYU. Bruce Reyes said, great site, RJ. Appreciate that. I don't know what takeoff means, dog. I don't know. And I don't know why this dude got it in all caps. The dudes that come into the chat just to say go whatever their team is are the ones which I'm laughing at. Like, that's all you got? That's all you're here to do? Is that? Get out of here, man. Let me see. A lot of things be U2's fault, dog. A lot of things be U2's fault. Bama 42, Florida 28 in the SEC championship game. Yeah, I caught some hell for this yesterday when I was doing the AP rankings analysis live show. I might actually drop that into the podcast for tomorrow because I thought that was a good show. But, like, I said that Florida didn't stand a chance against Alabama, and Florida fans are aghast. Like, how dare you, sir? Have you seen your defense? You gave up 35 points to Arkansas. Like, I love Arkansas. They should not be scoring no 35 damn points on Florida. That shouldn't happen, right? Like, because they got a halfway decent quarterback where Kirby Smart leaves his really decent quarterback on the bench. Like, that's what it is, right? Felipe Franks, Kendall Browse, their first year together, put up 35 on Florida. With that in mind, I would not be shocked to see Alabama put up 63. Like, that's how good Alabama has been offensively. Mac Jones, Devontae Smith, Slade Bolden, John Mechie, Najee Harris. All those dudes can cook you. All of them. So, yeah, I'm with it. Like, I'm with that scoreline. I don't know if that's my scoreline, but I could definitely see Bama stomping a mud hole in Florida and walking it dry. Mac Jones won the Heisman. I don't know, man. Like, it's too soon to tell. Like, if Kyle Trask were to beat Alabama, then you say he's going to win the Heisman. You know? Like, it's too soon to tell. Justin Fields has been unconscious. Been stupid good. Stupid good game to game, right? There's still people that want Trevor Lawrence to be considered for this. As Trevor Lawrence wasn't the reason they caught that L. And he's the best player for them on the best team for them, right? Like, there's a number of guys that need to be considered for this argument, but one of the dudes that I'm not going to consider is Zach Wilson. He'll get an invite, but I'm not going to get him a first-place vote. Your schedule is trash. Your schedule's trash. You had Western Kentucky come to Provo. For what? For who? None of us wanted to see that. None of us needed to see BYU beat Western Kentucky. That doesn't prove anything to us. You don't get to tell us about those stats. Navy didn't even tackle before they had to tackle BYU players. That's why y'all stuffed the mud hole in Navy. Plus, Navy's not that good. It's a hard look, man. If they were going to win a Mountain West title, that'd be one thing. Join a conference. Let's see. I am not here to talk about Caleb Woods and Spencer Rattler right now, dog. I'm not doing it. Come at me after signing day. Come at me in the off season. We playing football right now. Like, I got a recruiting upload that we're going to do, and I did recruiting with the LSU thing. I'm going to talk about Emeka Egbuka and JT Tuimoloau here in a couple of hours, but, like, stop that. Stop that. Stop with the trying to pit the 5-star quarterback versus the 5-star quarterback. They're in. Like, one of those dudes actually moved to Norman. Hello. See, I got Bama scoring 50 at max. I mean, I don't care what you got him at. What makes you think I care what you got him at? I don't care what you got him at. Shout out to Winford, who became a member of the channel. It's like 99 cents to start. Why aren't all of y'all members of this channel? It's like less than 1 cent per video. Come on. What are we doing here? Since the Big Ten is unstable, like Elijah Moore winning the Biletnikoff Award, like that's within reason. It's just Ole Miss ain't very good, right? And what we've seen is the best wide receiver on the best team usually wins that award. So right now it feels like Devontae Smith's going to win the Biletnikoff Award. But I think you're right. He's going to be a finalist, and the numbers that he's putting up are stupid. And what a comeback he has had after raising his leg to go piss on, piss in the touchdown area, right? Piss in the end zone, to being the best skill player at Ole Miss, bar none. Let's see. All right, stop spamming the channel. So you spam the chat, you get put in timeout. I don't even answer your question. You spam the chat, you get put in timeout. Matter of fact, Doc, if you see somebody spamming the chat, just put them in timeout and explain to them what's going on. I'm not going to put up with the spamming the stuff, man. You want to get to your question, cool, be a member, right? Unless if you don't, then I'm going to pick the ones that I'm going to pick. Stop that. Let's see what else we got in here. Do you think Oklahoma... Like, I answered that question in a video, Brandon. Go check it out. I answered the Oklahoma SEC question in a video. I made it. Go search my name plus those tags. You'll find it. Let's see. The Big Ten is turned upside down. Oh, Alex Renteria becoming a member of the channel. I appreciate that, dog. Good looking out. Found you when quarantine first started. Absolutely love the channel. I watch every day. Keep up the great work. That's from Aaron Browning. I appreciate you, Aaron. Let me see. Reinfurt. Cincinnati should be in the Big Ten along with Marshall. Prove me wrong. All you got to do is ask Big Ten fans if they want those two teams in there. I'll bet they tell you no. Like, all the Ohio State fans would be like, nah, I don't like it. I don't like it at all. Why don't you like it? Because there's already one team in Ohio State. The pro team is in Columbus. Y'all got two pro teams. You know what I mean. We don't want Cincinnati competing for our players, because that's what it would be. Cincinnati would start raiding the state of Ohio. Like, they would just be coming after everybody. Michigan too, Wisconsin too. Nobody would be safe. Like, this is how the Big 12 ended up screwing itself. You have Texas Christian, Baylor, Texas Tech, and Texas all in the same damn conference. Why? Ampersand, you couldn't wait to get up out of there. Be like, nah, we don't play in that conference anymore. We play in the SEC. We're the only Texas SEC scheme. You should come play for us. And it's working for them, at least at present. They ain't won no national championship since 1939, but they're the highest ranked team from the state of Texas now, aren't they? Meanwhile, the Longhorns is like, what do we let Texas Christian in here for? What do we let Baylor in here for? What do we let Tech in here for? Those are our players. You know what I mean? Meanwhile, like, every now and again in the Big 12, we get this conversation going about adding Houston, and everybody goes, no, absolutely no more Texas teams. That's how it would be if Cincinnati was added to the Big 10. And the dude that wants to add Marshall to the Big 10 is also just a Marshall fan. Ain't nobody in the Big 10 ever heard of Marshall, okay? Like, it's like when West Virginia was added to the Big 12. We said, why? For what? That doesn't even make any sense. And they haven't made any sense. They haven't done much since getting here. Like, they made the one Orange Bowl. That's about it. And Tavon Austin ran roughshod over Oklahoma's dead body in 2012. Like, that's what they have added to this conference. Okay. All right. That dude's no longer going to get to say much on this channel at all. Let me see. Yeah, Wolves 58 hitting it. Marshall and Cincy would bring nothing to the Big Ten. They'd rather have a sorry Michigan than good Marshall and Cincinnati. I'm here to tell you. Yeah, Arkansas could end up being 5-5. Like, think about that. Arkansas could end up being 5-5, and I can see 6 losses for LSU. What? Like, if they play that Alabama game, 6 losses for LSU. That's what we're staring at right now. My goodness, man. Like, that's ridiculous. You ought to be ashamed of yourself. Let me see. What else got? Question. Do you think Ohio State has a good running game, or do you think Fields should run with the ball more often to compensate for the lack of running game? So last time I checked, and I made the preview video citing this fact where you can check that out, Ohio State versus Indiana, Master T is averaging like 15 yards per carry. He just ain't got to carry the ball all that much. And the offensive line hasn't been what we expected it to be, right? I don't want to see Justin Fields running more often than he has to. I know that he can, but I'm not looking to make him into Khalil Tate circa 2017 because he's a great passer. Like, he's throwing dudes open. He's hitting dudes in stride. He is destroying your secondary. I want him standing back there in the pocket and ripping people apart. That's what I want. And I don't think that the run game is y'all's problem, right? I don't. I think your problem is the secondary. I think Kerry Combs needs to go coach up his group because Shaun Wade does not look like the first-round draft pick that we all expected him to look like. And it didn't help that on national television, everybody saw Jahan Dotson just go moss him, go to work on him. Okay? And that's on an 0-4 Penn State team. Sure up the secondary, then worry about running the football because you're going to score points, right? Being able to run the football is something you want to be able to do in the college football playoff. Sure. But if you got Chris Olave, you got Garrett Wilson, you're going to be all right. You know, as long as Justin Fields is healthy, Fields is fine. I don't see that as a problem for y'all. Who do you got playing in the Big 12 championship? Oklahoma and either Iowa State or Texas. Iowa State because they got the one loss. They would have to catch another one. Oklahoma because they've never lost in the month of November as with Lincoln Riley as head coach. And he's undefeated against every team they have left on the schedule. Dating back to the Texas Tech game. Like, if Oklahoma does not end up in the Big 12 championship, I will be shocked. And then Oklahoma's won the last 5 straight. I'm not going to pick against them. I don't know who should be quarterback in Michigan. Right now, just figure out what your philosophy is. Fix what's broken, and it ain't just the quarterback. LSU equals the worst defending champs ever. It's a decent question. Like, I haven't actually given that much thought because I don't really go into that space. Like, who is the worst team to defend their championship? I don't really go in that space much, but I don't have any reason to disagree with you either. Let's see. I think I got time for a few more, and then I got to hop off. Probably going to add something to the live stream. I hope I get time, but I'm going to have to jump off in a little bit. I appreciate y'all showing up. Corey Carhoff making it in just in time with the yo. Appreciate you. LSU is literally playing freshman at quarterback now. I mean, so Trevor Lawrence was a freshman playing quarterback at Clemson. That has nothing to do with it anymore. That argument no longer holds up. Quarterbacks, true freshmen, they can do it. We've seen them do it. It's all right. It's going to be fine. Let's see. Yeah, J.J. McCarthy going to have to do a whole lot of work next year. Whole lot of work. Hope he doesn't turn into another Shea. What is that? Shea Patterson. Jordan Rodgers suggested James Franklin to South Carolina. No. Make James Franklin clean up Penn State. Make him do that. Plus, James Franklin and South Carolina go together like oil and water, dog. Like, that ain't what they want down there. I don't know if you're familiar with the politics of one South Carolina, but they are not necessarily the politics of one James Franklin. Okay? I don't see that. Matter of fact, I can't remember. I don't think South Carolina's ever had a black head coach. Feel free to fact check me on that. Like, I'm just throwing that out there, but I'm fairly certain they haven't had a black head coach. Might actually think about that. I don't know that you want to be the first in 2021. You know? Iowa State versus Texas will be a good game. I hope so. Texas has turned most everything into a good game, whether you're good or bad. That's just what they're going to do. Probably got time for one more question. Who is your top 4? It's a good question. Alabama, Notre Dame, Ohio State, those are the 3. The 4th one is changeable, man. It's changeable because Clemson got the 1 loss, and I think the 1 loss should disqualify you for playing in a college football playoff situation, but we saw that work in 2017 with Georgia and Alabama both getting there. I'm inclined to put Cincy there because of the way they've been stomping a mud hole over people. Like, they've been stomping on people and destroying them in such a way that they get to make the argument, check the scoreboard. We are destroying people. We are destroying people like a Power 5 team in a Group of 5 conference, which is what you would have to be in this year with the rules the way they're set up. You would have to be so much better than your competition to have an opportunity to play in that, and then you need your competition to be decent, right? That's BYU's hang up. That's Coastal Carolina's hang up. Though Coastal Carolina would be able to say, we went 3-0, and we were one of the teams that went, to help get that 3-0 against Big 12 competition, but it's a year in which the Big 12 has already been, eliminated because y'all went 3-0. It's a real catch-22 everywhere you look. Like, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't, which is another reason why I want the playoff to be expanded. But I would put Cincinnati in that spot. Tulsa will beat Cincinnati? I don't know, dog. I don't get that. I don't get that at all. Why do people just want to show up here to actually just be mean? I don't get that. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Come up here and be nice. Goodness me. People just want to clown in the chat. All right, guys. I got to jump off early because I got a thing for my book project. For those of you who don't know, I'm writing a book about the race massacre in Tulsa and a number of other projects. I sincerely appreciate your support here. And I look forward to seeing you guys again on Wednesday. Remember to subscribe to the RJ Young YouTube channel. Hit that subscribe button. Hit the like button on this video. And remember that you can download the RJ Young Show podcast wherever it is you get your podcast. If you have missed the live show and you don't want to deal with all the ads that YouTube surfaces, because I don't surface them. I have nothing to do with the ads. Matter of fact, there's this whole thing on YouTube right now about people not getting paid for the ads that are being surfaced on their channel. And one day I'll be able to tell y'all about that. But right now, just know that I'm making the stuff, pushing it out there for you. And if you want to get the commercial-free version, download the RJ Young Show podcast. Otherwise, you're just going to be here dealing with these commercials. I will talk to y'all in a few hours. Deuces.